Okay. Can we do a very, very quick sound check? Can you guys hear me loudly and clearly? My word. What a night. What a fight that was. Josh Taylor, man, absolutely battered by Teofimo Lopez. And I have to say, that to me is without question, a big shock to me. To be honest with you, I was going into tonight's fight and I was fully expecting Josh Taylor to get the job done. But it is what it is, isn't it? Josh Taylor getting absolutely back. Let me start off by saying, first and foremost, right? I'm absolutely made up for Teofimo Lopez. Press one in the chat if you're happy that Teofimo Lopez won that fight. I thought Teofimo Lopez was outstanding. I thought, he looked good in the run up to the fight, in the back, getting his hands wrapped. He looked good. Look, the first thing that this fight should drill into your head, if it hasn't been drilled into your head right now, is there's a bunch of muppets on the internet who seem to waste copious amounts of time and energy talking about mind games. And we saw that in the run up to this fight yet again, didn't we? Mind games. Oh my God, I think Josh Taylor's winning the mind games. Teofimo looks finished. The mind games. Teofimo looks done. Shouldn't even be boxing. You know what I saw all day on Twitter today? I saw all day people lumping on a Josh Taylor knockout, All day people were lumping on Josh Taylor to stop Teofimo Lopez because of the mind games. I just think that looking at these interviews, like, Teofimo, don't look in the right frame of mind. And I keep saying it, till the fucking cows come home. You are fighting a man and his two fucking fists. That's what you're fighting. You're not fighting his mind. Yeah, you're not fighting his family problems. You're not fighting his father. You're not fighting his child support case in court. You're not fighting his custody battle, right? Which is what Teofimo is going to go and fight right now, right? You're fighting a man and his two fists, and that is it. And whoever boxes better on the night, whoever shows up on the night, will get the job done. First and foremost, I'm not making any excuses. I want to make that clear. I'm very, very happy that Teofimo won the fight. He deserved to win the fight. And to be honest, I don't know how you guys think, but for me, there was almost a case at one point for putting Josh Taylor out, to be honest, because he was shipping so much punishment in the 9th and the 10th round. And in the 11th, he kind of showed something, which is probably why they kept him in there. But Josh Taylor was shipping so much fucking punishment in that ring. Honest to God, yeah. At one point, I said, is there any point in actually leaving him in there? Because it was very, very uncomfortable to watch. Right, let's get down to the analysis, right? I think Josh Taylor's finished at the top level. Press 7 if you agree with me on that. Press 8 if you disagree. I think Josh Taylor's finished at the top level, and I'll tell you why, okay? I'm not making any excuses. I'm just going to tell you how I see it. Josh Taylor was flat as a pancake. You could see it from round 1, round 2. That guy can't make the weight anymore. Very, very simple. First note, I've got first red flag that I've got written down here in my book of flags, in my book of red flags here. Yeah, Chris S, those scorecards are a fucking disgrace. We'll talk about those in a minute. 113, 115, 113 on 2 cards to Teofimo Lopez. Those cards are a fucking disgrace. Josh Taylor won about 2 rounds tonight. Teofimo battered him all around the ring. And to be honest with you, Taylor at some point in the fight, it looked like he was going to get stopped. Let's be honest. I mean, I sat and watched that fight live on ESPN, and he was shipping huge punishment. He walked himself. Was it round 10 or 11 where he walked himself into a huge counter uppercut? And I don't know how the fuck he stayed on his feet. He was so ropey in his legs. I don't know how he stayed on his feet. He was hurt bad in that ring tonight. He was hurt more tonight than he's ever been hurt in his career. He's very, very nearly stopped. Exactly, Chris says. If that had gone on another minute or two, he'd have got stopped. So spare me the 115, 113. He took punishment from about the 4th or 5th round onwards. He was getting hurt continuously in there. And I will give you the technical breakdown of it in a second. But first and foremost, he is done at the weight. He's flat at the weight. I can see that. Trust me, flat at the weight. Red flag number 1. Somebody tonight said that Taylor came in 161 pounds tonight on fight night. I don't know if that's true or not, but I made a note of that because that is a massive red flag. Josh Taylor coming in 161 pounds on fight night. So what? He rehydrated 20 pounds. That must have been a hell of a fucking weight cut that he pulled off. I just don't think that Josh Taylor can make the weight anymore. I've always respected Taylor for beating the best, right? There's no question. World Boxing Super Series winner, did it the hard way. This guy isn't some random WBO world champion that, had some dodgy world title. We've got all these world champions. We've got all these fighters masquerading as world champions, right? But we've got a handful of actual real world champions in the sport of boxing. Josh Taylor was a legitimate, real world champion in the sport of boxing, right? Ring Magazine, Lineal, World Boxing Super Series. He had all the accolades, right? But for me, and somebody said it in the chat, for me, Josh Taylor's always been a weight bully. Josh Taylor's always, right, dominated fights, based on having a massive physical advantage over his opponents. That's how Josh Taylor, for me, is one of the majority of his fights. He does it very well, but I think Josh Taylor's always been a bit of a weight bully. And I thought Josh Taylor was going to get smashed up, but I thought Josh Taylor would get smashed up when he went up to welterweight. I didn't think Josh Taylor would get smashed up, at 140 by Teofimo Lopez coming up in weight. I thought Josh Taylor's day of destiny would come when he stepped up to welterweight and couldn't be a weight bully anymore. And then I was expecting to get smashed around the ring. But he got smashed around the ring tonight because he can't make the weight. Flat as a pancake. What were the signs? Flat-footed, flat on the feet, no bounce in his feet whatsoever. Also, if you notice with Josh Taylor as well, you could see he always tried to start off the rounds very, very well. Did you guys notice that? He always started off the rounds very, very nice. In the first 20 seconds, 30 seconds, he was able to actually build a bit of pressure. And then after that, you could see couldn't build any more pressure after that. Couldn't build any more pressure after the first 20, 30, 40 seconds of the fight. And then Teofimo would take over the rest of the round. That's if you look at the pattern, particularly the early rounds, that's how the fight was going. When Taylor would start well for the first 30 or 40 seconds, right? You see his feet quicken up, get a little bit more of a bounce on his feet, be a little bit more energetic, pushing Teofimo back in lines, closing the space a little bit more. And you can see him there, a little bit more rapid, applying the pressure a little bit more. But you can see after the 30, 40 second mark of the round, there was nothing left in the gas tank. There was nothing left. You just couldn't keep it up. He couldn't keep it up. You're getting picked off. He was getting beaten for speed in the ring tonight. And you know what? I hate to say it, and I've got to look at these notes tonight from Josh Taylor first and foremost. When I started seeing him do this, I knew there was a possibility he was going to get stopped. Press 1 tonight if you saw Josh Taylor do this in the ring. Did you see Josh Taylor throw in jabs and then sort of tentatively leaning back out after the jab because he was so fearful of what was coming back? Did you guys notice that about Taylor tonight? Taylor, picture the guy who went to war for 12 with Regis Prograis, in the World Boxing Super Series. And then if you look at Josh Taylor tonight, how tentative he was. If you watch Josh Taylor when he was throwing jabs tonight, you'll see he was throwing a jab and then he was putting his chin up in the air because he was so afraid of what was coming back. He was hurt tonight. He was getting beaten for speed and he didn't see the shots coming. And I've never seen Josh Taylor look like that in all of my life. It looked absolutely dreadful. And that's when I knew this is a guy who's going to have a problem doing the 12 rounds tonight. This is a guy who's going to be on the verge of getting stopped because it's just so tentative in the ring. Go back and watch it. He's going in for the jab. He's stepping for the jab. And as soon as he threw the jab, he literally step it and lean back with his chin up in the air because he was so shook and so worried about what was coming back because he was being timed time and again by Teofimo Lopez tonight. We'll talk about Josh Taylor's game plan, which in my opinion was a little bit one-dimensional, getting picked off at will. We'll talk about that. But I just want to talk about my notes on Josh Taylor. Yeah, so starting off round strong for the first 20 or 30 seconds, and then you could just see him tailing off. You could see, for me, flat-footed, no bounce in his feet. Wasn't able to use his feet to carry himself, into distance and out of distance. They say in boxing, particularly amateur boxing, your feet are actually the first line of your defense. Tony may correct me on that if he wants to or not, but a very, very well esteemed amateur boxer tells me that the feet are your first line of defense and offense. And you can see there, Taylor had no bounce in his feet, absolutely gone, particularly as the rounds were going on. 1 minute into the round, 2 minutes into the round, you could see there you could see there just looked flat to me. The weight cut's absolutely done him in. And I'm not trying to make excuses, by the way, because Teofimo Lopez was a level above him tonight. I'm just saying, you could see for me, he couldn't keep up any kind of pressure. He couldn't maintain any kind of pressure on Teofimo Lopez tonight. And as a result, Teofimo Lopez was able to hold the center of the ring for large portions of the fight. And because of that, that's when the problems began. Now, let's have a look at Taylor quickly. And I will get to your comments. I just want to go through some of these notes before I forget them. Josh Taylor had one game plan tonight, right? And what's that game plan? It's the same game plan he does. Teofimo Lopez, whoever's coached him, which is probably his father, so we're going to have to give his father credit. But I suspect Teofimo Lopez has been watching film. That's a man who's clearly watched a lot of film on Josh Taylor because he was reading Josh Taylor tonight like a book. Josh Taylor was doing the same thing over and over again that he's done in all of his previous fights. For those of you who don't know, Josh Taylor's MO, yeah, is the double jab, 45-degree angle step to the outside and set up the left hand, right? Press 7 if you agree with that. Press 8 if you disagree. That's Josh Taylor's bread and butter, right? That's Josh Taylor's bread and butter that he's been doing in all of his fights. He goes double jab, does a 45-degree step to the outside of the orthodox fighter, and he tries to set up the straight left hand to the body, the overhand left to the head. That's his meat and drink, right? Josh Taylor, right? The majority of his work comes off that double jab, 45-degree step, right? That's Josh Taylor's meat and drink that he's been doing in all of his fights. Double jab in, he throws himself in behind the double jab, 45-degree step, takes himself off the angle of the right hand, and he looks to set up the straight left hand to the body, the overhand right. Teofimo Lopez read that one move all night long. Clearly film studied him. The warning signs for Taylor, actually, to be honest with you, were actually in a press conference or in an interview that Teofimo Lopez did with ESPN. And he actually said in the interview with Mark Kriegler at ESPN, he made a comment. I can't remember the comment, but he said something like, you can see Josh Taylor's lead hand, or you can see his left hand all day long or something. He made a specific comment. He made a very, very specific comment in an interview with Mark Kriegler about being able to see Josh Taylor's left hand coming from a mile away. And you can see there tonight, he saw Josh Taylor's left hand coming from an absolute mile away. Josh Taylor always fighting in that same pattern, always looking for the double jab, throws himself in off that double jab, and he's looking to set up left hands off it. But Teofimo tonight, I tell you what, absolutely disrupted him in multiple ways. Let's just go through those ways and then we'll go through comments. First and foremost, you see Teofimo Lopez cutting off Josh Taylor's jab. Now, we talk about lead hand control, orthodox southpaw, lead hand control. Did you guys see tonight Teofimo literally slapping Taylor's jab hand down? Press 5 if you saw that tonight. He wasn't even being cute with it. He wasn't even trying to just hold his lead hand over Josh Taylor's lead hand. He was literally tonight just slapping Josh Taylor's lead hand down, slapping Josh Taylor's lead hand away, slapping Josh Taylor's lead hand out of position. So straight away from the first round, he's throwing off Josh Taylor's jab. If you watch him, he's slapping Josh Taylor's jab hand down with his lead jab. He's slapping it away, he's slapping it out of position. He's knocking it out of position, right? He's knocking it out of position. So that straight away, he did an outstanding job of disrupting the rhythm of Josh Taylor's jab, disrupting the rhythm of Josh Taylor's jab, disrupting the frequency of Josh Taylor's jab, because you're trying to get your hands in position to throw the jab, and then you've got this guy who's literally slapping your jab hand down. You've got to pick it up again and get into position to throw it again. And Teofimo Lopez did an excellent job of disrupting the jab of Josh Taylor. When you disrupt the jab of Josh Taylor, right, and when he did that tonight, you start to lessen the pressure, because Josh Taylor builds pressure behind the double jab. He likes to back you up in straight lines behind that double jab, and then he likes to set you up for that left hand to the body or that left hand to the head. And then when he gets messy on the inside, he likes to put the heads in, he likes to put the elbows in. I have to say this, when we have to start giving referees credit on this channel, you know it's a bad day. You know it's a fucked up day when we have to start giving referees credit on this channel. I thought another reason why Josh Taylor lost this fight tonight is because the referee had also done his homework on Josh Taylor and got on him very, very quickly about his fighting, which I have to be honest with you. And I know Mickey Yule, you're one of my favorite people. Mickey Yule, you know who you are. And I know you're listening, Mickey Yule. And I know you'll be fuming with me because you're a massive fan of Josh Taylor. But let me just be honest with you. Josh Taylor is a filthy fighter. And the referee clearly done his homework on Taylor tonight and wasn't letting him get away with anything. And we all saw what happened early on in the fight there, where Teofimo was sitting down on the ropes. I think the ref must have called a break, and Josh Taylor landed. What was it, an uppercut or a left hook to the side of Teofimo Lopez's temple, where he was sitting on the ropes and couldn't defend himself in the middle of after the referee called break. You know what Josh Taylor's like in fights. The little things that he gets away with in the UK, the little things like that the Victor Loughlin's and the Terry O'Connors let him get away with, punching after the break, headbutting, elbowing, all the little tricks that he gets away with in the UK tonight. That judge tonight, I tell you what, in the States, wasn't letting him get away with it. He was on him, and he was on him nice and early, and he made it nice and clear to Taylor that he wasn't going to get away with the roughhouse tactics. And I think that was something that disrupted Taylor in that fight as well. So first and foremost, yeah, Taylor just doing the same stuff, always looking for that double jab, 45-degree angle step. Teofimo read him. And another thing about Josh Taylor, but again, which I thought would get exploited when he stepped up to welterweight, but Teofimo did a great job of exploiting him tonight. Taylor's lead hand is always very far from his face. It's either by his chest or it's very far from his face. Because if you look at the way Taylor sets up with that left hand, he's always touching, probing, or he's got it by his waist. So if you look at Taylor's left hand, his left hand's constantly away from his face, constantly away from his face. He's either feinting with it, probing with it, or he's got it by his chin. And Teofimo Lopez caught him with some beautiful left hooks, particularly tonight when they were up close. You see Teofimo Lopez when they were up close on the inside, finishing up on the short left hook, because Taylor's always got that. Taylor's always got his lead right hand. I'm a southpaw, so I should know that, but I get mixed up. Taylor's always got his lead right hand far from his face. He's always got his lead. He's always holding it out. He's always probing with it. He's always faking the jab, or he's jabbing, or he has a bad habit and he drops it to his waist. And you see Teofimo Lopez, as he was coming in, was countering him. He was countering him. Short left hands, he was coming in. When it was on the inside and Teofimo was throwing combinations, finishing up on the left hand, because he knows Taylor's always got that right hand by his waist, or he's always got that right hand far away from his chin. He did an excellent job of finishing up on the left hook when they were up close tonight as well. Catching him coming in again. Josh Taylor throws himself in behind the double jab, yeah? And unfortunately, he was getting time and threw himself into a number of punches tonight. And you can see there was no plan B from Josh Taylor tonight. Threw himself into all kinds of punishment tonight, you know? Throwing himself in behind the double jab, because like I said before, in these UK fights, you know what Taylor does. Throws himself in behind the double jab, smothers the opponent, elbows, heads, throws to the body, punching after the break, and he grinds you down and he breaks you down. And it's very, very hard to live with that kind of Josh Taylor under those kind of circumstances and that kind of environment. But I thought Teofimo Lopez did an excellent job of catching Josh Taylor coming in tonight, you know. Taylor just, you know, and that's another key sign, by the way. And again, for me, that Taylor was absolutely weight drained to fuck, and just he was flat as a pancake in my opinion, because he didn't have the bounce in his feet. And when you don't have the bounce in your feet and you're coming in flat-footed, you can't get in and you can't get out. Press 8 if you understand what I'm saying. Press 9 if you think I'm talking rubbish. When you're flat, some of you guys have been in the ring. Tony, if you want to come on, Tony, you're always welcome to come on and give your opinion, by the way, Tony. I've seen you in the chat. If you want to come on. Shevin, if you want to come on, you're welcome as well, by the way. But you guys know, some of you guys have been in the ring, understand. You know when you get in the ring and you just feel flat? You guys have been there. You get in the ring and you just don't feel it in it. You feel heavy in it. You know what it is when you get in the ring and you feel like, I haven't fought, but I've sparred, yeah? And you feel like you've got lead weights on you. Do you know what I mean? You get in the ring and you feel like you've got lead weights on you. Like, you haven't even done a round yet and you feel like you've done 5 rounds. You haven't even done a fucking round yet. The bell's just gone and you feel like you've already been in a 12 rounder. You just feel flat. And when you feel flat, you notice you can't just, your feet don't carry you in and out in the same way. Your feet are flat. Your feet are lackadaisical. Your feet are lethargic. So Taylor didn't have the feet to bounce in and out of range and play with distance and keep Teofimo at that sort of in between range. He didn't have it because his feet were so flat. He was overcommitting. He was falling in on the shots. He was falling into uppercuts. He was falling into hooks. He was falling into the straight right hand. Teofimo Lopez in the second half of the fight couldn't miss him with that straight right hand. And you just saw, unfortunately, he just couldn't. He had no plan B. He had absolutely no plan B. And some of that, to me, like I said before, is just because he just wasn't there tonight for Josh Taylor. He just didn't have it. You know, it wasn't there for him. He just didn't have it. It's one of them nights he didn't have it. But I would say the lack of a plan B from Josh Taylor tonight was very, very alarming. Like I said before, I think he's one of the most legitimate world champions we've had in Britain for a very, very long time. He is one of the best world champions we have had in Britain for a very, very long time. Make no mistake about that. But I have to be honest, and I hate saying this, technically he got exposed tonight, because once he started getting timed in, once Teofimo was able to counter him and disrupt his jab and counter him on the way into that little double jab 45-degree step thing that he likes to do, once Teofimo Lopez started countering him, reading him, he had no plan B. And he kept doing the same thing all night long. Let me give another little bit of credit for Teofimo Lopez on the inside. Stayed small. Whenever Teofimo Lopez got backed up to the ropes, stayed small, dipped low, kept his head low, done his homework. These guys, I tell you what, there's a lot of talk about, you know, people's fathers and is his father a bad influence and whatnot. Somebody in that fight has done their fucking homework tonight on Josh Taylor. Every time Teofimo Lopez back touched the ropes, he got nice and small, dipping low and rolling. And you know what he was doing as well, which I like to see as well? He always protecting, yeah? Always protected against that left hook on the inside. Every single time you could see he was always tucking in. I think it's that right elbow. Every time he's up on the inside, if you see him, whether he was low, he was always tucking in tucking in that right elbow to protect against Josh Taylor's. That's Josh Taylor's meat and drink. Let it get messy on the inside, heads going, elbows going, and Josh Taylor likes to throw in them left uppercuts to the body, likes to throw in them vicious left hooks to the body. Every time Teofimo Lopez was getting manhandled on the inside, every time, tucking, staying low, dipping the knees, staying low, dipping down, rolling. But if you look at that right shoulder was always protecting and covering, that shot to the body. So Taylor wasn't effective to the body at all in this fight. Didn't really hurt Teofimo Lopez to the body at all, from what I could see, although I watched the commentary, watched the fight tonight with the sound down. Press one if you agree with me on that. Very, very good hand position. But again, Teofimo, when he was backed up on the ropes, and he was backed up on the ropes, particularly in the beginning of rounds, Josh Taylor was starting the rounds quite well. First 30 seconds, first 20 seconds, he would start quite explosive. There'd be a lot of exchanges, back Teofimo up against the ropes, and he'd try and let shots go. And then he didn't have anything left in the gas tank. But if you look, Teofimo did a very good job of staying small. Don't stay tall against them kind of fighters, and especially Taylor, who was constantly looking for the overhand left tonight to try and get himself out of trouble in this fight. His last salvo to try and get himself out of trouble in this fight was to try and back Teofimo up and look for that overhand left. That was the shot that he kept looking for in the second half of the fight, when he knew he was in trouble. He said it was a close fight, but he knew he was in trouble in that fight. And you could see him looking for that one Hail Mary overhand left when Teofimo was backed up to the ropes. But Teofimo did a very, very good job of not standing tall. Don't stand tall. Don't stand tall. You're the smaller man. In a fight like this, fight like the smaller man. He didn't try and stand tall. Didn't try and he was nice and rolling and staying low. And he did a very, very good job. Very, very good job of staying low and staying small when his back touched the ropes there. So yeah, in conclusion, I think we're done with that. And I'll go through your comments now. If anybody wants to call in, Shevin or Tony, if you want to call in, now's the time. But like I said before, I'll give you my comments. I think that's the end of Josh Taylor at top level. Press one if you agree with me that. Press two if you disagree. We'll get a poll going. Because I just think, not because he's a terrible fighter, but I always thought he was a guy. The reason why he was such a dominant champion at 140 pounds was because of his physical attributes. He was absolutely massive at the weight compared to the majority of his opponents. He was absolutely huge for the weight. He's had problems making weight for a long time, Josh Taylor. We've all seen Josh Taylor getting on the scales, looking like absolute death in some of his previous fights. He didn't even want to fight Catterall in a rematch. Remember that? He didn't even want to fight Jack Catterall in a fucking rematch. He said it was time back then to move up in weight. Josh Taylor should have moved up in weight a while ago, but that whole style he's got, you see the style he's got, is not going to work at welterweight because the guys are too big. You've got guys like Errol Spence who are 170 plus who are killing themselves to get down to the weight. You had guys at the time, like I said before, he was obviously not boxing anymore, but you had big guys at the weight, guys like Sean Porter, 180 plus, killing themselves to get down to 147. Guys like Kell Brook, we all know Kell Brook outside the ring was walking around 170, 180 all day, every day, and then absolutely killing himself and not eating for 8 weeks to get down to 147. So Josh Taylor could see the writing was on the wall and try to hang on and get himself through one more weight cut, to try and do something at 140, because it's going to be a slippery slope. His style of boxing and the way he boxes, which is based on being very, very physical, is not going to help him at 147 pounds when he's going to become, for the first time in his career now, he's going to be the much smaller guy. It's not going to work well for him. And I don't say that in a disrespectful way. He is one of the most legitimate champions that this country's ever had, and he's done fantastic for British boxing. I'm just calling it from a stylistic point of view, okay? His whole style is based on pressure, based on inside fighting, based on being very rough, based on lots of rabbit punching, elbows, low blows, punching after the break, manhandling fighters, ragdolling fighters. He's used to being the physically strong fighter. He's used to being the puncher in a fight. When he goes up to welterweight, all of his physical attributes are going to be taken away from him, and he's going to have to do a lot more of what he did tonight, which is box from distance. And Josh Taylor don't look comfortable boxing from distance. Let's get some comments in. Do you agree with my analysis or do you disagree with my analysis? But for me, Josh Taylor don't look very comfortable boxing from distance at all, to be honest with you. He looks much more comfortable at close quarters, where he can manhandle and sneak in the body shots and sort of grind down an opponent. When he moves up to 147 pounds, he's going to be in big trouble because he's going to spend a lot of time, at the end of a jab And I'm not sure if he's going to know how to work his way in. To credit to Josh Taylor, he's very, very good at angles. He's always been very, very good at trying to use angles and angling around fighters. Like I said before, he does like to, put in that 45-degree pivot, off that double jab. And he's very, very good at using angles to set up the overhand left and pivoting around fighters to set up, and left uppercuts to the body and things like that. So Josh Taylor's very, very good at using angles. All right. So he's not like he just walks in straight lines. Yeah. And obviously, like I said, he's going to be a lot fitter, 147 pounds, because he's not going to be drained to fuck. But the bottom line of it is Josh Taylor relies on his physical attributes too much. He's not a guy that's going to be able to do what Teofimo Lopez did, move up in weight and absolutely dominate somebody. He's going to find himself at the end of a jab, and he's going to find himself getting stopped. And I promise you, I'm not trying to piss and shit on Josh Taylor. I'm just telling you, hand on heart, how I see it. When he goes up to welterweight, if he fights anybody that's of any sort of caliber, I think we're going to see him get stopped. To be honest with you, he was on the verge of getting stopped tonight, to be honest with you. I don't know how you guys feel about that. If that fighter got on one more round, he definitely would have got stopped. He was walking himself onto all kinds of shots. And I think Teofimo Lopez hurt him tonight, hurt him bad. And I just think that's it for Josh Taylor, to be honest, at the top level. I think we've seen it. And listen, he's done fantastic. He's achieved everything you want to achieve in a sport of boxing. Ring Magazine champion, lineal champion, World Boxing Super Series champion. If you look at how many guys are in the Ring Magazine top 10 right now, Josh Taylor's beaten number 1, number 2, and number 4, although he didn't really beat him. But officially, Josh Taylor's beaten number 1, 2, and 4 in the Ring Magazine rankings. So the guys had... Look, if Carl Froch could get into the Hall of Fame, right, then they have to be honest, right? There's a case for Josh Taylor to get in the Hall of Fame. It has to be, right? Carl fucking Froch got in the Hall of Fame. So Carl Froch is getting in the Hall of Fame. If Timothy fucking Bradley's getting in the Hall of Fame, Jesus fucking Christ, how did that happen? Timothy fucking Bradley getting in the Hall of Fame. I think there's going to be a spot for Josh Taylor in the Hall of Fame, right? Okay, he's had a Hall of Fame career, right? But like I said before, that career was based on being physically stronger and being the bigger man over his opponents. When he goes up to welterweight, the hunter is going to become the hunted. Right, let's go through your comments. John Byrne says, sad to say, but Taylor limitations got exposed big time tonight. I'd agree with that, John Byrne. Like I said before, where's the plan B tonight? Like I said, I'm not a boxing coach. I didn't see it. I see him trying to do the same thing, always trying to throw that double jab and throwing himself in behind that double jab. And he was getting picked off and countered and beaten to the punch all night tonight. And I said the real warning signs that I saw from Taylor tonight was how tentative he was. I would urge you to go back and watch some of the later rounds in this fight. Maybe watch, round 6 to 9 or something, and watch Josh Taylor. I've never seen him look so gun shy in my life. The man was throwing a jab. You watch, he's throwing a jab and he's literally putting his head back and he's pulling out because he's so afraid. Well, not afraid. I don't want to be disrespectful, but he's so wary of what's going to come back. He's been hurt. He's been picked off by right hands and left hooks galore. And you see Josh Taylor. This is a guy who went to war with Regis Prograis at close quarters and fought, like an animal for the best part of 12 rounds. That wasn't Josh Taylor tonight. Josh Taylor was a wounded animal there tonight. And that was sad to see that, Josh Taylor throwing a jab and then quickly backing out and leaning back out of it because he didn't want it. Because he knew what was coming his way, and he was very, very tentative, very, very tentative. I'm just being honest. Tony's reviews is saying Carl Froch is the greatest the boxer world's ever seen. I think Carl Froch deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think if he's in the Hall of Fame, I think Josh Taylor should be in the Hall of Fame. What do you guys think? Should Josh Taylor be in the Hall of Fame? Gary Core says, why did Taylor and Ben Davison go separate ways? I have no idea, but listen, it's irrelevant. The trainer's irrelevant, really, to me. Josh Taylor tonight's flat. The weight killed him. The weight absolutely killed. Would he have beaten Teofimo Lopez anyway? Look, I think Teofimo Lopez has more strings to his bow than Josh Taylor does. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I do sometimes believe there's a gap between boxing in the UK and boxing in the States. Do you know what I mean? As a whole. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, Josh Taylor was a world champion. He was the best in the world at that weight until proven otherwise, etc., etc. But it was almost like a glorified sparring session. Now, I don't think people understand how bad this was. Like, if you haven't watched it, it was glorified sparring. Like, the last 6 rounds of that fight were glorified sparring. I mean, Teofimo Lopez was clowning around in the ring, making him miss. He was hitting him with just showreel shots, leaping left hooks, lead uppercuts. He was fucking around with him there. He was hands down, making him miss. He was just clowning him. I'm just going to be honest with you. He He clowned him. I mean, people talk about Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey. This wasn't Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey, but he literally he beat Josh Taylor to a pulp. Those cards are a disgrace. 115, 113. Listen, that was a 118, 110 fight if I've ever seen it. That was not a close fight. And that was not a hard fight to score, and it was not a close fight. It was not a close fight at all. But like I said before, I don't think any trainer could have saved Josh Taylor in there tonight. I think Josh Taylor was beaten tonight, firstly by Teofimo Lopez and secondly by the scales. He's done it the way. He can't keep making it. He's flat. Can't build pressure. Fighter like Josh Taylor, very, very simple, needs to build pressure. Josh Taylor, if you look, the telltale signs in the ring were, like I said before, no bounce in the feet, flat on the feet. And if you look, he starts the rounds very well. If you look at the first 20 seconds of the round, those are the best minutes of it. If you look at the best parts of Josh Taylor throughout this fight, they tend to come at the beginning of the rounds. Do you agree with that? Say yes if you agree. Say no if you disagree. If you look at the beginning of the rounds, then first 10, 20, 30 seconds. That's when he's got Teofimo against the ropes. That's when he's able to unload the combinations against Teofimo Lopez. And then after them first 20, 30 seconds, he can't sustain the pressure. Can't sustain the pressure. He can't sustain the pressure for any kind of time. You'll hear that. You'll hear it very soon. Dead at the weight. Dead at the weight. Yeah, Gary Cole says Lopez was even done. It was glorified sparring. He literally was teeing off on him. It was glorified sparring. Absolutely and utterly teeing off on him. And like I said before, for me, like I said, if Taylor hadn't shown some fight in the 11th round, he should have been pulled out. I mean, if you just look here, look. If you fight, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of the. Well, it is what it is. But the Daily Mail did a follow along for this fight, yeah. And if you actually look here, look at this. This is the Daily Mail saying this, okay. So I'm not making this up. Look, this is round 10, okay. So this is round 9. Taylor's corner needs to be ready to stress the situation to him now. Unless he shows something in the 10th, there's no real reason to continue. There's no real reason to continue. He was getting battered in there, really honestly. At one point, you know, I was thinking they need to pull this guy out, you know. Tony says Catterall took Taylor's soul. He's finished. I think the scales took Taylor's soul. I don't think Catterall took Taylor's soul. To be honest with you, Tony, I don't think Jack Catterall's all that. I think it was a bad style matchup because it was a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. And I think that some of the shots that Taylor was throwing in those fights, and I think Taylor's one of them guys, the kind of shots he throws, the shot selection is set up for orthodox fighters. And I think that a mixture of Catterall's very awkward style with his range and with the way that Jack Catterall uses the shoulder roll and turns his shoulder and protects his body, I just feel like it was a bad style matchup. I don't think Catterall took his soul. Honest to God, I think that the scales took Josh Taylor's soul. But I don't want to, for people who are new to the show, I'm not trying to take anything away from Teofimo Lopez. He's a different level fighter. He's the one coming up in weight. He was the one everybody thought was going to get beat tonight and get stopped tonight. And he was the one that people were talking about, you know, that he was finished. You know, you saw him in the ring saying, has he got it anymore? It wasn't looking good. Well, that was an outstanding performance. For me, I don't know how you guys think. For me, that was much better than his performance against Lomachenko. What do you guys think? Because in the Lomachenko performance, I'll be honest with you, I think Teofimo's performance against Lomachenko is a bit overrated. I think he started well in the first 6-7 rounds, but I think Lomachenko figured him out in the second half of the fight and started putting a bit of a beating on him, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. I thought second half of the fight, Lomachenko really started to get on top of him. I think this fight was a much better performance. Yeah, I do. Dowsy's Boxing says, Ultra, coming across your screen, you have Taylor beats Lopez. That's right. That's wrong. So I was testing the stream and I was so convinced that Taylor was going to win this fight. Now, when I was testing this stream before we went live, I actually had that as my banner. I didn't think Teofimo Lopez was going to win this fight tonight. To be honest with you, I didn't see a beating. Like he beat he beat the brakes off Taylor. Tony wants a link. Just give me a second, and I will give Tony a link in just a sec. Just give me a sec here. I haven't done a stream in a long time, you know, so I've kind of forgotten how to work this thing. I know. Well, hold on. There we go. I've kind of forgotten how to work this thing. So, Tony, if you look in the chat, you will find a link. There you go, sir. We've only got 79 in here tonight. Obviously, it's what is it? It is 6 in the morning UK time. If you'd like to be part of the chat, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to hit the like button, and please feel free to support the channel. Please feel free to hit the like button. We've only got 21 likes in here so far. Normally, we've got about good 4 or 5 times the amount of people in the chat, but obviously 6 in the morning UK time, the numbers are going to suck. Ruby says, how come Taylor was able to get inside and work effectively in the first 3 rounds? What adjustment did Teofimo make, or was it all that Taylor just couldn't sustain himself? Well, to be honest with you, I didn't see Taylor. Tony, just give me a sec. I'll bring you in. Just give me a sec. I didn't see Taylor really, other than that first round, right? I didn't really see Taylor put anything to sustain together for any really one round. For me, Taylor was fighting in spurts all the way through the fight, really. I didn't really see Taylor put it together for an entire round other than the first round. And that's the way that this Daily Mail, who's following it live, this Fight of Live review, he saw it the same way. He saw Taylor nicking the first round, and then most of the rounds after that were Teofimo Lopez. And again, I just really think it's a case of, like I said before, it's kind of ABC 1, 2, 3. Josh Taylor was in the ring tonight, with a faster fighter. He was in the ring with a fighter that had the ability to beat him to the punch. He was in the ring with a fighter who had more strings on his bow, better punch selection. So what could he do? He had to build pressure. He had to find a way to build pressure. He had to find a way to make it rough. And he wasn't able to make it rough, wasn't able to build pressure, wasn't able to sustain pressure. And I will say one thing about Teofimo. You talk about adjustments. It wasn't an adjustment because he was doing it all fight, but Teofimo did an outstanding job of protecting the body. And I said before, he did a very, very good job of whenever he touched the ropes, you see he stayed small, went low. Look how low his head was. I mean, it's very, very hard to do that because you see what Taylor was doing. Taylor was putting the forearm on top of his neck, but the ref correctly, unlike what they do in the UK, got onto him about that very, very quickly. But Teofimo was dipping low and keeping his head low. Taylor was putting the forearm on top of his neck, trying to trap him, right? And the referee got on him very, very quickly. But Teofimo did a very, very good job of staying small. And if you look at his hand position, whenever they got close on the inside, his right hand was always nice and tucked in. Right shoulder tucked in, right elbow protecting, because they know anytime Josh Taylor looks to go get to the inside, he's only going to throw 2 shots. Overhand left or left hook to the body. That's his meat and drink. And they saw those 2 shots all night long. Those are the 2 shots they saw all night long. The overhand right and the left hook up on the inside. And they saw that very, very well all night tonight. Tony, what are we saying? How you doing, bro? You all good?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
It is what it is. It is what it is, Tony. We're trying to survive. Tony, what do you think?
Like I said, man, Catterall took his soul. Y'all have lost Josh Taylor, but it's okay. Y'all still have Ed Sheeran, so y'all will be all right.
You said you were shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I never thought Teofimo would win that fight, and I never thought I'd see Josh Taylor at 140 get smashed like that. He got smashed.
Yeah, he did. I was shocked because I'm telling you, I truly believe Catterall took his soul. You have a dude who was undisputed, felt like he was on top of the world, and he got completely outclassed, schooled for the first time in his career. And he gave up all his belts not to do a rematch with him. Now he's talking about going to 147 because he still doesn't want the rematch with him. Now, I understand that you said you believe that he was weight drained, but he looked good on the scale to me. I didn't see him looking emaciated. He looked fine.
No, he didn't. He did look good. He looked, in terms of his condition externally, he looked great. I have to say that. But he looked flat in the ring. But carry on.
Yeah, no. At first, like, you got to understand, it was up to, was it the 3rd round or the 4th round where Teo went in between the ropes and Josh
Taylor,
hit him
hit him on a break. Yeah.
It was after that round that he really started getting flat, and it was because he was just running into counter shot after counter shot after counter shot. And in my opinion, what I saw was a fighter seeing his demons. He was having the same issues he had against Catterall, and it was all over again. And I think he just gave up. He wasn't listening to the instructions in the corner. His coach, whoever that was giving him great instruction, tell him how to feint, how to work off the jab, how to move, get off the line. But he just wasn't listening. It's like he went through the motions, but he wasn't really doing anything. He wasn't throwing more than onesie twosies. He just looked bad. He looked real bad. He just looked like his heart wasn't in it.
Are you sure he wasn't flat? Because some of the stuff you're saying Not being able to follow the coach's instructions, only throwing ones and twos. I agree with you. The combination punching wasn't there tonight. If you look at him, for me, fighting in spurts in the first 20 or 30 seconds of the fight. To me, like I said before, listen, I think he's one-dimensional. Would you agree with that? Do you see what I see with Josh Taylor, where he keeps looking for that double jab, pivot to the outside, left to the body, overhand left? Is it me, or does he throw that exact same? Does he fight in that exact same pattern every time, 24/7? And tonight he had no plan B for that. Once Teofimo sort of worked him out on that.
I mean, I would agree, but at the same time, a lot of fighters have a lot of patterns that they follow. But you got to look back at Josh Taylor in general. Like when he fought Post Style, he had to be more dynamic because Post Style went on the back foot. It was a hard fight for him, but he adapted. When he fought Regis, he started from range, and he started to close the distance, and it was a phone booth war. But I think Regis is way better than Teo, way faster, a lot harder of a puncher. I saw a guy whose heart, whose soul, whose mind just wasn't in the fight.
What good things did you see from Teofimo tonight? I said some of the things that I liked tonight from Teofimo. I liked what I saw when they were up close. I liked the way he stayed small. I liked the way he protected the body. I think that Teo to me looked like a fighter who'd absolutely done his homework. I know there's a lot of talk about mind games and what's going on outside of the ring, but it looks to me tonight that he was like really, really prepared for what Josh Taylor was doing. It looked like they were really prepared for that short left hook on the inside, because you could see his hand position every time. He was tucking in that right elbow, and he was always protecting that side. And the way he was tucking his elbow when he knew that shot was coming. And the other shot that I think he knew was coming as well was when Taylor tried to, like I said, he tries to throw that jab, he tries to pivot off, and he tries to throw that overhand left. Those two shots, which are Taylor's bread and butter, short left hook on the inside and that double jab, pivot off and overhand left. Teofimo Lopez saw those two shots all night long. And Taylor really couldn't land anything of any significance, particularly to the body tonight. And I just think that, would you agree with me and say that, regardless of what happened with Taylor, he looked like a fighter that did his homework?
No, I definitely believe he did his homework, but at the same time, I think he also learned from his loss against George Kambosos, because you got to understand, Teo is a very good counterpuncher. He's very explosive. However, where he fell short in the Kambosos fight is he tried to push the action. He tried to force it when it wasn't there to be forced. Okay. And in this fight, he was a lot more methodical. Like he was ahead, he was hurting. He hurt Taylor on multiple occasions, but he never rushed in like he normally does. Like you said, he was watching for the body, keeping his hand low whenever Taylor would go for them hooks, them straights to the body. Only a few got through. He had a very good defense in his fight, and his defense has been lacking in the past because he'll start forcing the action when he doesn't need to. So I think he learned a lot from his loss, even though he thinks he beat Kambosos, which he didn't. But yeah, like the dude looked like he did a really good job. Like he never forced nothing. He was patient. He was actually watching what Josh Taylor was doing, and he knew when to turn it on and when to turn it off. I think the 10th round, he took like an off round because Taylor was getting a little bit of momentum. And then in the 11th and 12th, he turned it right back around. So the dude proved that he has an IQ. He proved that he could box. He proved me wrong because I thought he was a flash in the pan. I really didn't. I never thought Teo was that good.
Same here. No, keep going, Tony. Keep going, Tony. Don't let me cut you off.
But yeah, no. It was just, and I do agree. Like he definitely did film study because, like, was it the 8th round that he started dancing on Taylor like 2 times in the round, acting like he had glow sticks in his gloves and was moving all around. He understood the distance. He understood the range that Taylor was going to come from. So he was able to get away with playing around with him because he had such a great understanding of where the danger range was, where he could stand, where he wouldn't even be in trouble. And like you said, the getting real low definitely caused Taylor all types of issues.
Yeah,
like, I don't understand.
Absolutely.
Like, you would think with his experience as Taylor is, when a guy dips low, you don't aim for his head. You aim for his fucking
aim for his body. Tony, I'm just going to ask you, it's easy for us to say, yeah? But I think Taylor was done at the weight. I'm going to stand by that. I understand you don't. But I did write a note of this here, and I didn't mention it. Do you think Taylor headhunted a little bit too much? Because like I said before, when someone's going low, is the uppercut there, or can you find the ribs, or can you find the liver, or can you whip shots around? What do you think, Tony? Do you think Taylor was guilty of a little bit headhunting, a little bit too much when they're up close? He seemed to be really investing, in that overhand left, kept missing it, didn't follow up to the body. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, but early in the fight, he was throwing feints and going to the body. It was still, like I said, around the third or fourth round that he quit doing that. And I just think that it was a rinse and repeat for him. He just was having flashbacks of Catterall, and except it was Theo in front of him doing it. Like, he just kept running into counter after counter after counter after counter, and he abandoned everything but a jab. Then he tried to throw a straight, or he throw a wild left hook that wasn't even set up. And that's what he reverted to. And I just think that he's just done. Like, I understand we could see him at 147, but I think anytime the going gets hard, he's going to lose. He's going to give up. He's going to go through the motions, but he's not going to do anything to win.
Would you attribute his success at 142? I've always attributed his success at 140 down to, obviously, he's very gritty. Yeah, he's a very gritty fighter, very talented fighter. But I've always thought what sort of giving him the extra cherry on top has been his physical advantages. And I worry for him when he goes up to welterweight, because I can see him getting absolutely fucking hammered. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm not saying he's not world class or whatever, right? Listen, technically, he's a better fighter than Carl Froch. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's a much better fighter than Carl Froch, technically, right? But I'm just quoting how I see it from a stylistic point of view, Tony. I want to know how you see it. To me, he's a guy with, I'm not being disrespectful, who has dined out on being the bigger man. But Tony, he ain't the bigger man no more, man. If he goes to 147, I think it could be lights out, Tony. What do you think?
What I think is Carl Froch is the greatest boxer from the UK. Him versus George Groves did 80,000 tickets. He held the record.
He did until AJ came. And I'll talk about him in a minute. But what do you think, Tone? Seriously. Taylor going forward at 147.
Well, first and foremost, as far as his size advantage, yes, he's naturally been the bigger men, the guys that he's fought. And that's always an advantage. It is. Like, you can't say it's not. It's the same thing with Devin Haney. Devin at 135 has always been the bigger guy that he's against. And once he goes up to 140, that size advantage diminishes. It goes away. It's no longer there. As far as Taylor goes, going up to 147, I think he'll still be on the bigger side. I mean, if you compare him to like an Earl Spence, Spence gets up to like 190, 195 pounds. But if you look at the other guys, like Ortiz doesn't get that big outside of shape. Stanionis, who he's fighting, doesn't get that big. Ennis really isn't that big. He might be like 170 outside of fight comp. But I mean, so I think size-wise, he's not really going to be outshadowed by anybody besides Spence, who's going to move up to 154 anyways. So I think he'll still have a significant, if not significant size advantage. He'll be the same size as all the guys. I don't know what it is. Certain fighters, they lose one time because he lost the Catterall, and he knows it. He knows he lost. He can say that he didn't, but he knows he lost that fight. Certain fighters, when they lose one time, they're never the same. And I think that's the case with him. I think he's a one and done. Once you beat him, his career is done from there. It's just going to be downhill.
Tony, I'm listening. Tony, just before you, I want to keep on for a bit. I just want to shoot some comments through. Do you mind if I just shoot some comments in the chat and you can answer them? Is that all right? You there, Tony? Yeah, I'm listening. Let me shoot a comment at you. This is John Byrne in the chat says, Taylor didn't even know how to big man his way through the fight. That was the most shocking thing for me. I thought he'd at least be able to make it close and make it messy using his size, if nothing else. Tony, do you think, and you know I'm not one for praising referees, do you think that the referee was absolutely on his game tonight? Do you think the referee did his homework on Josh Taylor tonight? And do you think the fight being in the US and not being in the UK was quite significant to why Josh Taylor got smashed as well tonight?
Well, of course it was, because he couldn't big man him, because every time he tried to push T.O. down, the ref was right there warning him, like, don't do it. Anytime he tried to hold him and hit him, he was right there stopping him immediately. So as far as him being able to grab and do the things that he normally does and try to do the little tricks that are really cheating, but if the referee doesn't see it, it's okay. He couldn't do that in this fight because the ref was on his ass the whole fucking fight for all 12 rounds. So, like for instance, whenever he was teeing off on Tio sitting on the ropes, they would have let him get away with that. Like most referees would have, but he didn't even let him do that because he wasn't down. So technically, you can hit him while he's still sitting on the ropes. Um, but that ref was just all over him, so I don't think he had the opportunity to big man him.
Someone's asking about Taylor compared to Ricky Hatton at 140. I would say Ricky Hatton's in a different league to Josh Taylor. Would you agree with that, Tony? Ricky Hatton in a different league to Josh Taylor?
I think Ricky was a lot more skilled.
Jeez, I mean, he pushed Mayweather in that fight. He pushed Mayweather for the first 5 or 6, to be honest with you, and then he got taken out. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, you got to think too, though, Ultra. He beat Costa Zoo. He ended his reign.
He ended his career. Literally ended his career, and he was number 3 pound for pound at the time in ring. Unbelievable fight. Ronan says, Ultra, I agree with you on Josh weight cutting issues. How do you see him doing at 147? I thought Tony was way too diplomatic. I see him getting his head lifted off. I'm going to be honest with you, Tony. I don't see him becoming a world champion at 147. Can you see him become a world champion at 147, Tony?
I told you. I think Catterall took his soul. I think he's done.
All right, we'll finish up then. Yeah, that's me. Tony, you got anything else you wanna say before we call it a day?
No, I want to see the real undisputed champion Jack Catterall fight Tio or Devin.
Yeah, no, they've got to do that. That's a great point. They have to do that. They have to.
But that's pretty much all I have on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, Tony. All right, we're gonna come back, Tony. So, what we'll do is we at some point we've got to talk about the heavyweights, AJ versus Dillian White 2. But probably 6. Trash, exactly. But 6 in the morning UK time ain't the best time to do it. So maybe we'll be back later on this afternoon if you want to come on, Tony. I'd like to hear your thoughts on AJ versus Dillian White 2. Apparently that will be coming to an arena near you. Tyson Fury's completely fucked his career up. He's going to be going to Matchroom, I think, by the way. Talk about that. So I've just got a funny feeling that Tyson Fury in one fight's time is going to end up fighting on Matchroom Boxing. I reckon we're going to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua on DAZN. I've just got a funny feeling about that and some other stuff, Tony. So yeah, if you want to pop back on later on this afternoon when we've got a few more people, you are always more than welcome. But before you go, Tony, as always, give your final thoughts on just what you saw tonight. Anything in general that's on your mind. Sign us out.
Like I said, I was in shock. I was in awe about how good Tio actually looked. I thought it was a flash in the pan, but obviously he's more than that. He boxed great. He set up some, like the lead uppercut that he did that was a counter.
Unbelievable shot.
Was beautiful. And you know, the lead uppercut is one of the hardest punches.
Hardest shots to land.
Yeah.
I always say that, Tony. Like I can't think of a harder shot in boxing. Somebody once said the hook with the other hand, the rear hand hook. But I can't think of anything harder, Tony. I couldn't land one to save my life, Tony.
Yeah, because you're wide open, but he got it. So, like, I give him all the credit in the world, Josh Taylor. I think he's a mentally defeated fighter. I think Jack Catterall haunts him every time he closes his eyes, and that played a big part in this. But I don't want to take anything away from Tio because he boxed beautiful. That's really my 2 cents on it.
Peace, my man. I'll see you soon, all right? See you soon, Tony. Okay, let's go through some final comments and then we're going to call it a day. I think we're going to come back this afternoon when there's a few more people. I really appreciate you guys. Listen, even to have 80 at 6 in the morning UK time, I really appreciate. Ronan says, I know you said trainers wasn't a factor, but should Taylor have stuck with McGuigan? It wouldn't have made a difference to me. He's already beaten on the scales anyway. And he fights in that same pattern anyway. Even under Shane McGuigan, he's fighting in that same pattern tonight. I just think he's been found out. That's my honest opinion on it. Shane McGuigan or no Shane McGuigan, to me, it doesn't make a difference. Now, Shane will tell you otherwise because you know what Shane says. Shane says that all the fighters that leave me never go on to do anything. So this will increase Shane McGuigan's stock because people will say, oh, we're the bad Shane McGuigan. But really and truly, you know, Josh Taylor, in my opinion, like I said before, is one of the best champions Britain has had. He's a very, very legitimate champion. But listen, he's a guy who has, in my opinion, dominated fights based on, like I said, the weight cut. He's a huge, I mean, but allegedly he was 161 tonight, allegedly. 161 in the ring tonight. He's a big guy who likes to sort of, you know, and again, you know, you look at some of the fights that have gone in the UK, some of the fights that have happened in the UK, some of the refereeing that's happened, some of the judging that's happened in Taylor fights. I think, like I said before, look, Shane McGuigan or no Shane McGuigan, you know, it is what it is. I just think that fighters are working him out. Teofimo Lopez, if I can't say anything other than tonight, I have to make it clear to you. I know him and his dad, come across like absolute morons, right? Teofimo and his dad, but I can assure you, somebody in that camp has done some serious film study on Josh Taylor because they knew everything that was coming. Like, I cannot stress to you, the last time I saw Josh Taylor so ineffective up close, like. I'm not even sure if in a cattle fight he was more effective. I've never seen Josh Taylor so ineffective and have so much difficulty landing shots on the inside as what I see from Teofimo. The smaller man, he covered absolutely everything off. Even when Taylor did close distance, Teofimo just closed off all those left hooks. He saw the overhand left coming. He saw the sit-ups coming. He done his homework. I cannot stress to you enough. He knew what Josh Taylor was going to throw. He knew the pet combinations that he liked to throw, and he prepared for them. And Josh Taylor just couldn't surprise him, and that was the problem. There was no plan B. There was nothing to take Teo out of his rhythm. And once he got into rhythm in round 3, round 4, fight was over. He got into that rhythm. He started picking up his timing, started timing Taylor coming in, timing him with the right hand, timing him with the short left hooks on the inside. And he read him all night long, and that's why he was clowning him in the ring and dancing around in the ring. He just had his number. He absolutely had his number. He's done his homework, you know. He really done his homework. And those are the same kind of shots that he was throwing on the Shane McGuigan. So, look, it is what it is. But I think ultimately, Tony says Josh Taylor's finished. I think the weight cuts finished him. Let's see if there's any more comments I've missed. A few comments on George, the Art of War Cambozos, but it is what it is. Josh Ford says, I know it sounds terrible. I think that Josh Taylor should finish. I don't think going up to welterweight is going to end well for him, to be honest with you. Listen, that's my, and if I'm proven wrong, listen, more power to Josh Taylor, but I'm just going to call it 100% honest how I see it. I don't think a move to welterweight is going to end up well for him. Yeah, regardless. Okay, right. Let's call it a day. Tyson Fury fighting Dempsey McKean. That's all nonsense. But I do think that what we might see is Tyson Fury on Matchroom against Anthony Joshua. Just got a funny feeling that we're going to see that. I've got a feeling we're going to see Fury have his last fight with ESPN Queensbury in September time or something. And then I've got a feeling that in December, if the Wilder fight doesn't come off, that AJ and Fury will get it on. So let's see what happens. I've got a funny feeling. But at the minute, Tyson Fury's making a fool of himself. At the minute, Queensbury are pissing their pants because they can't get him a fight. So it's just panic stations down at Queensbury because, you know, they want to get him out, but they can't get him a fight. And they're probably worried that he's going to leave after his contract. So listen, this boxing game swings around in circles. Maybe the winds and the sands of time are starting to turn around back to Eddie Hearn again. What else are we going? Conor Benn is talking about what? Killing people in the ring. What was he talking about, Conor Benn? He's talking about ending people's lives or something. I can't remember what he was talking. What was he talking about? Conor Benn was talking about something in I don't know what's going on with him. He's supposed to be serving a fucking suspension at the minute. But there's rumors that he's going to be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. very, very soon. It's probably the most distasteful fight in the history of British boxing. There you go. Chris Eubank Jr. fighting the man who allegedly tested positive twice in the run-up to their fights. Apparently, that fight will be coming to an arena near you. But yeah, I haven't been doing a lot of videos recently because it's the same old stuff, really, isn't it? You've got a bunch of YouTubers talking. If you see the stuff I see on Twitter with these YouTubers, some of these YouTubers really do think they can fight. You know, they're talking some, and not to me, but just in general. Like some of the stuff we see on Twitter, some of these YouTubers. I saw something the other day that I cannot begin to tell you how cringy some of these dudes are. Like, you know, Jesus Christ, it is cringy. It is cringeworthy. I won't get into it, but it is what it is. Mark Wharton says, Teo is great for boxing. He's an exciting elite fighter and can talk the talk. At age 25, he's beaten Loma and Josh Taylor, two elite he's beaten two great champions in Josh Taylor and Vasyl Lomachenko, beating two great champions there. Two great champions. A Million Styles Boxing did a film study on Taylor a couple of years ago. Nothing has changed since then. Taylor still likes, you know, for me in it, every time I see Taylor fight, he fights. I'm sure there's a lot of intricacies that I'm missing because I'm not, you know, a boxing coach, right? But I'm just saying, every time I see Taylor fight, he fights pretty much the same way. I know he's going to try and throw a double jab, shift out, pivot out to his right-hand side and try and set up a left hand to the body, left hook, etc., etc. The other little shot he likes to throw is that little uppercut through the middle as well. kind of know the kind of shots Josh did. But like Tony says, all fighters have got their patterns that they like to fight and stuff. But you see it with Taylor tonight there, he had absolutely no plan B. But I think, like I said before, he was dead before he ever got to the ring. That's my opinion on that. I'm not trying to take anything away from Teofimo, but I think he was flat as a fucking pancake. Honestly, I think watch the fight back. The signs are there. Fighting in spurts, not throwing a lot of combinations, a lot of singles, fighting for 30 seconds of a round, and then having to take the rest of the round off. Listen, he was fucking done before he'd ever stepped foot in that ring, in my opinion. Take care of yourselves and each other.